Good evening. You're listening to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I am here with Professor Pixel, a.k.a. The Night Talker, and RDV from the Great Midwest. Tonight's episode, Xtreme TV. We are discussing Kolchak, Season 1, Episode 12, Mr. Ring, Ring to the layperson. And gentlemen, I got to say, this episode, oh, wow. Here's the thing. I really, really liked the structure of this episode, and I liked everything about this episode, except for the quote-unquote monster, the Ring, who turns out to be a semi-sentient AI robot that gets brought to life, sort of, kind of, whatever, and I don't really care. But what I liked about the show, guys, was it started off different than the typical Kolchak thing, where he walks into the office, it's dark, and he starts in a drugged out stupor talking into a file that we're so used to hearing the overdub with about what's going on, and he looks confused. And then of course it's him flashbacking to the story, and as the story goes on and develops, and we'll dive into that here in a moment, when it ends and it finishes up, it's him just finishing up to talk about it. I just thought for some reason the very understated nature of him doing it was great. And I've said before how I really don't care for Vincenzo a lot. I thought Vincenzo was a real dick in this episode, and they didn't even have their little bit of what seemed to be fun, playful banter. He just was grousing at him, and then they talked, and that was it. And I go, this show would be so much better if it was just Kolchak, and he had a boss that we never saw that would just yell at him from the corner office, and he just talked to the old lady, Ruth or whatever her name is, and the other dude wasn't there. And I'm nitpicking, guys, but my God, the rest of the episode is really good. So I definitely have some mixed emotions about that. So let's start with you, RDV. What was your take on this episode?
Well, it was kind of weird because I was like, I've heard of Ring before. I'm pretty sure we use that for protecting our houses. Of course, it was kind of cool.
You mean for giving your information in real time online to the company that Oh, I can't really say that, can I? All right, never mind. Go ahead.
You mean that one ring that rules them all?
Also, the first thing I noticed is this has Julie Adams in it. That's kind of nice to see her back.
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
The guy wrote, and when you find out it's a robot, and I'm just thinking like, okay, that's gonna be the most uncomfortable thing ever, because he's got a sock over the back of his head. He's gonna wear that device.
It's pretty bad, isn't it? It is. And he's got the Blue Man Group base color suit, if you will. I mean,
I thought we were gonna start getting
really
some. It just felt like we're just gonna start getting some, Mr. Roboto or some other music start playing. But the overall show in general was pretty good. I mean, Julie Adams kind of made it for me because even at this age, she's still cute in the show.
Agreed.
But overall, though, it was just like, here's this guy, and you see the guy on the scaffolding, he's just doing the letters up there, and here comes the robot back, and the guy's like almost about to fall off his ladder. It was kind of corny. And Kolchak getting involved with the military. The military is, basically like, they're top secret, and he's finding out, he's talking to the wife. The wife doesn't really care because she's like, whatever, she's got alcohol, It was a different show. It wasn't normal Kolchak.
No.
I agree with you.
It was just off for me.
It seemed like daytime TV, like almost a soap opera.
I thought we're going to have Bill Bixby pop out as David Banner. Really? That's what it
more
felt
like
to
a
me.
burn victim than the 4 or 5 lights on his forehead or whatever. What about you, Night Talker? What say you?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a different episode. You know why? Because it's a government conspiracy. The government is trying to keep the robot from us, and thus that's why we don't get to learn about it. That's why Kolchak is in the state he's in whenever we see him.
Because they drugged his ass so he wouldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That was really evil and cynical. I've been waiting for that.
It made me realize if they tried to revive Kolchak, they obviously couldn't have him be an actual newspaper reporter. Because there's not really newspapers going around. But other than that, he's just he would be the kind of guy that's running a blog. The government is doing this to keep this information from you, and everybody writes him off as crazy. But
Are
whenever
you saying he would be Alex Jones?
he would be Alex Jones. They're putting chemicals in the water. They're turning the frogs into giant mutant people. That would be an episode with Kolchak, the Night Stalker. But I actually really liked it. I enjoyed the different take. I didn't enjoy the start. You're right. Vincenzo in this one, he's just mad at Kolchak for some reason, and I'm going to put you on obituaries. And you can see Kolchak's upset by this, but it was a good episode. I really felt like I have to disagree with y'all this time.
If Kolchak were around to do an adrenochrome episode, it would be the best ever, because the government conspiracy thing here really makes me flash forward 15 years, almost 20 years for the X-Files, which we talked about. Kolchak, no matter what we may perceive to be as the decline in the quality of the two movies into this weekly television show in the mid-70s for one season, for the most part, we've definitely enjoyed it. And in here, as bad as it makes it sound, we make it sound like the robots, this is over 45 years ago. And yeah, he's got like 8. You can almost color code and count out the resistance levels on the resistors that you see there. I mean, it's ridiculous, but we get what they were trying to do with it. It was just after the movie Westworld. It was back when AI was starting to be a thing and when computers were not mainstream. So I think it was a little forward thinking on their part to have an episode of something like this in here. And I don't think they failed with it, but I think one of the reasons why they didn't fail is because smartly they decided not to really show this guy that much, because he looks awful in the suit. He looks like a burn victim with goop on his head or whatever, like the Invisible Man, just throwing like plaster on his face. Because it sounds funny saying it, and it's probably funnier thinking about it than watching it. But we see where he goes on this rampage because he breaks into the mausoleum or whatever, because he has to steal the makeup stuff to put on his face. And the guy's coming out talking to Kolchak going, well, he stole some rouge and some base foundation, our tools of the trade. And Kolchak's like, what the hell are you talking about? It's so
We're
stupid.
dealing with a drag queen. No.
I did like the throwaway bit though with this with the basically Kolchak goes, he's like, I'm gonna go to the lake to investigate a murder that he didn't think it sounded right. Creature from Black Lagoon. So they actually they made reference to it. But Mr. Ring is supposed to be a sympathetic monster. You're supposed to feel sympathy, feel bad for him, but he's murdering people just to get an outfit.
So
that's Terminator. He might as well give me your clothes and your cigarette, all your sunglasses, your pants. Oh, it's just horrible. No one wants to see that stuff.
The reason why he kills the first guy is because they gave him a survival instinct, and thus he recognized that the guy was going to kill him.
Yeah. Let me just. The problem with this stuff here, and you guys kind of mentioned it separately, but I'm gonna tie it all together. Maybe your reference that the actress in here was like the lead in Creature from Black Lagoon. Yes, that was good. That was kind of smart. Nobody would get that these days. Nobody would care, but we do, and that's why we're saying it. The whole AI thing bothers me because it makes the Terminator movies seem stupid to me, even though I enjoy the Terminator movies. It's an action movie. I don't care about the AI and Skynet or whatever. We're in a world where AI is getting to be a big deal, but AIs are programmed by humans, and that's the one thing Kolchak says at the end that I think is actually very smart, where he says, if they ever did this again, who would program it? Because that's really what it kind of comes down to. Computers don't program themselves. We can say that they do and all that, but all that comes from somebody. So giving it a survival instinct made me go, I was loosely letting it go, but when he started talking all this stuff, and then he had the really bad ending where the military comes in and he gets shot, and he does the twitch thing on his stare. He has a good twitch. I'll give him that. It's just like, so I just, it was, you can't feel sorry for a robot. And here's where I'm tying it again to all you fans that are bitter like me about the whole Styx thing. And Styx was a pop rock group that started off almost kind of not psychedelic, but almost kind of like Yes or some of these older bands that you guys don't probably know or care about. But progressive is the word I'm looking for, like Kansas, phenomenal band. Styx went from a band that became really good mainstream, and they had first band to ever have like 3 triple platinum albums in a row, whatever it is. They get to 82, 83, and they decide they're going to do Mr. Roboto. And I just missed going to Mr. Roboto concert. E would tell you all about it from I Love Comics because he got to go. This is in May of 83, I think, here in Central Florida. And there was an interview with Tommy Shaw, who was the guitarist, who now plays with the current incarnation of the band, who said a very forward-looking thing that reminds me about this episode, and that's this. You know, I just couldn't get excited seeing about robots because when everybody says Styx, they think Mr. Roboto because that's been mainstream. People will say be extremely popular. I would tell you no, that's the most hated song by true hardcore Styx fans because it broke the band up. And unfortunately, when I think of Kolchak, I am not going to want to go back and think about this episode, even though it was enjoyable. It's just I look at it and like, oh, it makes me want to have a reboot, but I don't know who could play him because, again, we keep saying this time and again, and I'll let you guys close with your final thoughts. McGavin totally carries the show, start to finish, same stupid outfit, the cynicism level, the quips, all that kind of stuff. That's why we watch it. I mean, I've got nothing more to say. What about you guys?
I actually don't want to drop the topic right now. If you're talking about people who would have to come in to play Kolchak if they were going to do a reboot, you'd have to go for somebody who can really play a character actor, somebody who gets engrossed in a role and really builds into those little things. So like Tony Shalhoub with Mr. Monk, you can't deny he had his character down pat. I think it was done, the little idiosyncrasies that he had, and it's genius. So you need somebody basically like that to come in and put on that role to get into the little bits and pieces of Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
I can't think of who would play him really, because you got to have somebody a little older, I think, a little weathered looking, mature. It's got a little cynicism to it. And cynicism back then is a little different than how it is today. Today, it's really hardcore. What about you, Artie? What do you think?
As far as replacing him, they already did try doing a reboot of this, and it failed because people just weren't interested in this. It's like, I think that's also why I feel like X-Files wasn't really the reboot, or the extended seasons.
Rival.
Even if David Cuddy said he didn't want to do it anymore, or I forgot who, or it was him or someone else, but I don't think the people who cared about this show back then would want to watch a new show with somebody else. I mean, you might get new fans, you know, you could reboot it, but you'd probably have to change it. You'd have to have Vincenzo actually having a character where he knows every single episode connected, where he understands that, okay, not another monster thing, because that's what I think. That's ultimately what I didn't like about this show, the original run. Vincenzo not knowing, every episode it's like a reset. It's like we're getting multiple pilots. Like, we don't need that.
Yeah, that's true, because like we talked about with Vincenzo before, he's the main reason why Kolchak's there in Chicago, because he understood at least what was going on. And to have him have that ignorance thing, I think you're right. I think it's a big detriment to it too. And I don't know how you would do it today with Kolchak. Would people just be writing like a blog or something? I think it would be online, right? And would they meet occasionally at the coffee shop or something? I mean, seriously, how would you do it today?
You would have to do something along the lines of like they do Supernatural, with the creatures they had. Obviously, you don't have to bring in the angels and the demons and all that stuff, but you could still do the monsters of the week, something like that. And you'd have to just have the guy playing the same way. He's a younger guy. You could change it, make him more active, where he's not scared, running away like Garen does all the time. You could actually, you'd have to change it. I'm saying it wouldn't be the same show. You would have to. It'd be a totally different feeling. Maybe the early 2000s, when they tried relaunching it, was a bad idea. Now with it probably go to actually, if you think about it, it probably would go to CW.
Well,
With
and there we
Nancy-
kill the idea for a Kolchak reboot. Thanks
I'm just
so
saying-
much for watching.
I'm just saying that's where Nancy Drew ended up on the CW, and it's still going. That's where if you had brought back Kolchak today, it's going to be aimed towards teens, young adults.
Well, then kill me first.
Or
I
they tried.
started watching the Nancy Drew reboot on the CW just because I was a big Hardy Boys Nancy Drew fan from the 70s. You guys know that. I read all the Hardy Boys books as a kid. It was just something that was still popular at the time, believe it or not. And I really don't know what to make of the show because I'm 1 or 2 episodes in, and I will say that whatever it is they're trying to do with the Nancy Drew show, obviously they did a gender swap, and they've got all the check boxes, things thrown in there as well too with the characters. It's probably a bit more detailed than the typical crap on CW. I don't know that it's saying that much. It's certainly not on the level of the Twin Peaks writing wise, but there's definitely a seriousness that they're trying to take with it, and it's certainly not stylish like the 70s show. And even the Hardy Boys had a reboot on Hulu. It wasn't bad for what it was, and I felt that they captured the spirit more of what the Hardy Boys should be, and whereas I feel Nancy Drew failed. So I do agree with you guys. I think it would be very, very tough for Kolchak to do that, and I don't know how you could do it or even who you would begin with, let alone thinking about the Monster of the Week.
If they would bring it back as a movie and have Tom Cruise do it.
Okay, well, this conversation has gone on
Yeah.
far enough.
No,
This
on that
episode
note-
was really enjoyable. I really liked it. Those are my final thoughts.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Kolchak Season 1, Episode 12, Mr. Ring. A ring-a-ding-ding. Ring my bell. My ding-a-ling. That would be Chuck Berry.
Got
Yeah.
too far.
Any other rings I'm forgetting? What? I have not gone too far. I've gone too far.
You got to realize that he is the ring master. The master of rings.
Well, somebody call the police because it's time I was wrapped around your finger. Okay, I mean, well, who was it? Johnny Cash? You fell in that ring of fire, that salsa commercial? God, there's so many things we could do with this, right? Instead of kill and kill again, it could be ring and ring again. All right, have a good night, guys. Enjoy Kolchak episode 12. Good night.